Hi, everyone. Welcome back to U.S. Immigration News, where we break down complex legal and immigration topics in a straightforward way. Today, we're talking about denaturalization, the process where a naturalized U.S. citizen can lose their citizenship. This isn't something that happens often, but recent policy changes from the Department of Justice have put a spotlight on it. The DOJ issued a new memo that expands priorities for pursuing denaturalization cases. While the core legal grounds for denaturalization haven't changed, things like obtaining citizenship through fraud or misrepresentation under the Immigration and Nationality Act, this memo introduces 10 specific categories that federal attorneys are now directed to prioritize. This means more resources could be allocated to these types of cases, potentially affecting naturalized citizens who fall into these areas. It's important to note that denaturalization still requires a court order and evidence presented in federal court, where the individual has a chance to defend themselves. This isn't about arbitrary revocations. It's a legal process with protections. We'll go through each of the 8 priorities, explain what they mean, and discuss the broader changes in the current scenario. Remember, this is for informational purposes. If you're concerned about your situation, consult an immigration attorney. First, a quick overview of the current scenario. Denaturalization has historically been rare, with only a handful of cases per year. For example, from 1990 to 2017, it averaged about 11 cases annually. But during previous administrations, efforts ramped up for national security and fraud reasons. The 2025 memo, issued on June 11th by Assistant Attorney General Brett A. Shumate, builds on that by instructing the Civil Division to prioritize and maximally pursue these cases where evidence supports it. This could lead to an increase in proceedings, especially with broader discretion given to DOJ officials. The memo doesn't create new laws. Congress would need to do that, but it shifts enforcement focus. Civil cases, which are easier for the government to win due to a lower burden of proof, are emphasized, and there's no time limit on when they can be brought. Criminal cases for fraud are limited to 10 years after naturalization. Also, if citizenship is revoked, it could impact family members who derive their status from it, and in some cases, lead to statelessness if no other nationality is available. Now, here are the 10 new priority categories from the memo. These are the areas where DOJ is directing more attention. 1. National security threats. This includes naturalized citizens with ties to terrorism, espionage, or the unlawful export of sensitive technology or information that could harm U.S. interests. If someone concealed such activities during their naturalization process, they could be targeted. 2. Human rights violations. Cases involving torture, war crimes, or other serious human rights abuses. This has been a focus in the past for individuals linked to historical atrocities, but it's now explicitly prioritized. 3. Involvement with criminal organizations. People who have furthered the activities of gangs, transnational criminal organizations, or drug cartels. This is a new emphasis on post-naturalization or undisclosed pre-naturalization involvement. For undisclosed felonies, if someone committed felonies before naturalizing but didn't disclose them on their application, this could lead to revocation. The memo highlights this to uphold the integrity of the process. 5. Human trafficking or violent crimes. This covers sex offenses, human trafficking, or other violent crimes, whether committed before or after naturalization if they were concealed, or make the person ineligible retroactively. 6. Financial fraud against the government. Things like fraud in programs such as Paycheck Protection Program loans, Medicaid, or Medicare. If these were hidden during naturalization, it's now a high priority area. 7. Fraud against private entities. Similar to the above, but involving scams or fraud against individuals, funds, or corporations. This broadens the scope to everyday financial crimes that might have been overlooked before. 8. Corruption in obtaining citizenship. Cases where naturalization was gained through government corruption, fraud, or material misrepresentations not covered by other categories. This targets systemic issues in the application process. These priorities represent a shift toward more aggressive enforcement, potentially increasing the number of cases from the low double digits we've seen historically. However, each case still needs strong evidence and judicial approval. Experts have raised concerns about due process and the risk of creating unequal citizenship tiers, but supporters see it as a way to protect national security and program integrity. If you're a naturalized citizen, the best way to avoid issues is to ensure full honesty in your original application and comply with U.S. laws moving forward. Changes like these highlight the importance of staying informed about immigration policies. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more updates, and questions, just keep it respectful.